तम होवाच यथास महतोऽव्याहृतस्यैकङ्गारं खद्योतमात्रं परिशिष्टं तन्त्रणैरुपसमाधाय प्राज्वलयेत् तेन तत्तोऽपि बहुदहेत्. Tam to him, Hovacha, the father said, Yatha Somya, as we see, O good living one, Mahato Abhyayadasya, a fire which is very big in size, set ablaze of it, Ekamangaram, a single ember of fire of the size of firefly, Khadyotamatram, Parishishtam, remains as residue. Tam Trinair Upasamadhaya, if it be made to blaze up once again by adding to it Trinahi, heap of grass, dry grass, Prajwalayet, they set ablaze or make that fire of a bigger size, then by that, Tena Tatopi Bahudehet, more than its own size, than itself, it can burn. Similarly, Evam Sometya in the next mantra. Bhashyam on this mantra is Tamhovacha, Punaha, again that father told to him, said to him, to his son Shvetiketu, Yatha Somya, O Somya, good looking one, Yatha just like Mahato Abhyahita Sityadi Samanam, the words Mahato Abhyahita Sekam Angaram Kadyotamada Parishishtam, these words have the same meaning as it was in the previous mantra. It has to be explained as before. Ekamangaram Shantasya Agnehe, first is further explaining one single ember of that fire which was extinguished. Kadyotamatram Parishishtam, of the size of a firefly which was left over as a residue. Tam, to that ember, Trinai Churnaihisha, is adding a bit more, Churnai. Trinai is a heap of dry grass and Churnai is sawdust. Upasamadhaya, by adding all these things, Prajwaled, Varded, it should be lit up, it should be blazed up, the fire should be made bigger size. Because Bhasha is telling here Prajwalanam is Vardhanam, to increase the fire, the intensity of that ember into a big fire. Tena idhena angarena, by that single ember which has been now lighted up, tatopi puru parimanat bahudahit, it will be able to burn now more than as much as it could have burnt before. Evan somyate shodashanam kalanam eka kalati shishtabut sa annenopasmahita prajvali तयैतरी देवान नहीं तयैतरी वेदान भवसी अन्नमय गंग सौम्य मन आपोमय प्राणस तेजोमय वागिति तद्धास्य विजज्ञाविति विजज्ञाविति एवं सौम्य ओ गुडलिंग वन एवं मीन्स सिमिलरली ते of yours षोडशानांकलानाम the 16 parts eka kaladishishta, a single part was remaining as a residue. Sa, that single part, kala, annena upasamahita, it has been now nourished by food and prajwali and blazed up. With blazed up means it has been now given strength. Here is not a fire to blaze up, but the word same is being used as prajwali. Therefore, Bhasha will take the meaning of this vardita. That kala, that one single part is now further increased, developed to 16 parts. Taya, etarhi, now with that single part which by food was nourished and developed into 16 parts, now what you are able to do? Vedan anubhavasi. You are able to understand and remember, recollect all the Vedas. Annamayami somimana. Oh, good man, therefore, you should have a firm conviction now, by at least with these examples, that mind is made up of food, water force is made up of water, and the speech is made up of fire. He says, Taddasya vijajnaviti. Yes, by yours, this statement, it is now very clear for me that I have learnt, I have learnt, or he has learnt, Vijagnyau. He learnt it by that statement. Asya means Pitu, of the father, Tat, those statements, those vachanas, Vijagnyau, he learnt iti. He learnt iti. Twice here it is told, it is not that the topic is being ended over here or concluded. The point of discussion that was going on here was the becoming of threefold. That he has understood. It is not the whole topic of Sat Ekameva Dvitiyam. That is not completed yet. For that he will start again now. But the special topic which was in between taken up of the becoming of threefold, that has been concluded. Evan Somya, similarly, O good living one, te of yours, Shodashanam Annakalanam, the 16 parts made out of food, Samarthyarupanam, with the nature of different abilities, Eka Kaladhishishta, one single part was left over or remaining as a residue. Abhut. Atishishta Asit was left over. Panchadashahani Abhuktavata. How? Of you who had not eaten for the last 15 days. Panchadashahani Abhuktavata Tava. एकैकेन अन्ना एकैक कला चंद्रमस इव अपर पक्षे क्षीणा. What had happened is explained further very nicely. Ekekena anna, by each and every day, one day, one part became consumed each day. Kala Chandramasi eva aparapakshe Kshina was consumed. Just like the moon, the example is given here, just like the moon in the dark fortnight, it loses one after another color part, it reduces automatically, and almost it will be not seen at all. Similarly, one part after another part, day by day, in the last 15 days, 15 parts of yours has been loosened by you. Sadhishishta kala, that residual part of yours, tava, annena bhuktena, by food eaten by you, upasamahita, getting nourished by the food eaten by you. Vardita, upachita, you see, vardita, upachita, prajvali, being added to, each part daily, as you went on eating food, daily one part is getting added to the mind also. That is how the whole energy on your mind, the 16 parts, again got regained. That is how you have developed Vardita, increased, developed the number of parts from 1 to back to 16. Upachita, Prajvali, thus your mind has been now blazed up with the whole energy. Prajvali, how it is? Prajvali it should be. Is it Dairgyam, Chandasam? The long form that you sing over here is just a Vedic usage. Prajvalita, Vardita, Ityartha. It was made to blaze up, it was made to grow, to develop back to its original form of 16 parts. Or there is another difference in reading is there. Prajvalit iti patantram. That is lunglaka. Prajvalit, pra-ajvalit. Tada, then the meaning should have been a bit little change there. Then, tada, tena upasamahita swayam prajvalivati ityartha. Prajvalitavati vanita. Prajvalitavati ityartha. Then the meaning will be like this: being well fed by that food. What happened was, it blazed by itself. It was not being blazed out, it blazed up, it grew up, developed by itself. Swayam. You have to add the word Swayam over here. Swayam prajvalitavati ityartha. This is the meaning. तया वर्धितया एतरी इदानीम वेदान अनुभवसी उपलभसे. Being nourished by that, now idanim vedan anubhavasi, you are able to recollect and understand all the Vedas. Evam, in this way, vyavritti anuvrittibhyam annamayatvam manasa siddham. In this way, through the process of agreement and difference, vyavritti is difference, anuvritti, agreement. This is a process by which you establish a doctrine. That it says by vyavritti and anuvrittibhyam annamayatvam manasa siddham. It has been very well established that mind is a product of food. Iti upasangharati. Now the text therefore concludes annamayam iswamya mana ityadi. Yathaitad manasa annamayatvam tava siddham. As in this way, it has been proved that mind is made up of food and is very much established for you, tava siddham. Tatha, similarly now, that you had accepted before, that I have understood, that is also well proved and established. What? Apomaya pranaha, tejomevak, ityadapi siddham eva iti praya. Even those 2 points have also been proved. This is the idea behind this purport. Tadetu dhasya vipaturuktam tad asya. In the mantra it is tad dhasya. Tadetat, that which is stated so by asya, by the pitu, by the father, uktam, mana adinam annamayaditvam, that what the father had said was mind, vital force and speech were made up of what? Annadinam, food, water and fire. That Vijagyam Vijnatavan Shvetiketu, that Shvetiketu has learnt now very well. With firm conviction, he has decided that everything told by father is 100% truth. Dirabhyasas trivrit karana prakana samaptyartaha. The repetition is to indicate the conclusion of the present topic, which is dealing with the threefold process of the elements. The process of becoming threefold of the 3 elements, which is again indicative for the 5 elements, fivefold becoming. Now coming back to the main thing for which he had started all the discussion, that by knowing that thing, everything unknown is known. So we have to take back that. So it starts now. How we can go back to that point after the discussion? Because until whatever you have discussed now, by this we have proved what? In the middle once Bhashyakara had told. The only thing really is all external in the sense from your body, outside your body, everything is asat, mithya. That's what has been decided. Everything is made up of 3 elements. 3 rupa nityeva satyam. And among those 3 rupa also, further event, shungam, anvichet. Go to the cause. That cause of that also. And only Sat is the truth of this external world. Similarly now, Apomay, Prana and all is told. In this body also, everything is made up of the 3 elements only. And those 3 elements again further, earth is made up of water is made up of fire, and fire is made up of this earth. Therefore, what is here also, what we are seeing in this body and outside the body, everything is mithya asat. The only thing that is sat is your own self. That has been decided.
But Swamiji, asat and that Maya cannot have independent existence.
They don't have existence at all. There is no question of independent existence. They don't exist. There is no creation at all. Creation is an illusion. This is what he has decided now.
But then, that's what I mean. But Maya is the power of the Brahman only.
And that is also is being stated only for those who are perceiving the creation. If there is a creation, then it's necessary to think of Maya also as a power of Brahman.
But Vyavaharika, this thing we do have.
That's what I'm telling you. Because you are accepting the Vyavahara, you are accepting all the affairs in the worldly affairs over here, that means the world is there for you. For a person who is accepting the Vyavaharik Satyata and the world for that Vyavahara, for him it is said that there is a Maya, and Maya is the power of Brahman. But actually, there is no Maya, no world, no affairs. Just like that yesterday's story. There is no karma at all. But because all this thing depends on what you say at last, karma. Is it not? And three types of karma: sanchita, prarabdha, kriyamana. And they have not yet taken birth at all. This is what yesterday it came. In Yoga Vasishta is very clear. It's Mandukya and Yoga Vasishta are Ajatvada. This Maya comes only in Srishti Drishtivada and Drishti Srishtivada, not in Ajatvada at all. And actually, all the stories also want to take you to Ajatvada only. Don't mistake that they want to prove that something called as Maya and Srishti Drishtivada or Drishti Srishtivada are also real. No. No Shruti's indication is so that these Vadas are also real to a certain stage. Nothing. All this indicates that Sat is the only reality in the means world. That is very clear. There is nothing else of any apparent reality also cannot be accepted. Relative reality also cannot be accepted. Absolute reality is the only thing that is. That's all. So in that case, there is no question of Maya also. So that is why, how to prove that? For that it says, Tattvamasi. You are that only, not this body and all. Because you're thinking of this body and all, we are told this process, a big of threefold and all, so that you can get discompassion from this thing. Because there's nothing reality in this body and the outside things. The reality is Tirina Rupanitya Satyam. And now those three rupas also again further went on. What is the actual Satyam then? That is you only. That is to be proved now. Up to now, this has been proved. All these are Maya, Mithya. Only reality is the Sat. But still, the Shvetiketu has not understood that Sat is I myself. And Sat is you. That has not been realized. For that, he is going to start now. First, Vairagya from the external world and his own body is necessary. That is compassion towards the external world and his own body. That has been created now in Shvetiketu. And now Shvetiketu is realizing very well, there is nothing so called as my body or my world. So he knows that Sat is the reality. Now he wants to know further, he is thinking, what is that Sat? For that he starts. He starts how? He says, first, you daily sleep, is it not? When you sleep, you are merging in that Sat. You are merging in Sat in the sense, you are merging your own self. And that self is Sat, that means to say. This is how he wants to take towards that Sat and state that that is you yourself, the Sat and nothing different from you. To prove that, he starts with the Sushupti. Therefore he is telling, Uddal Goarunihi Shvetiketum Putram Uvacha Swapnantam me Somya Vijanihiti Yatritat Purusha Swapiti Nama Sada Swami Tada Sampanno Bhavati Swam Apito Bhavati Tasmad Enagung Swapiti Tyachakshade Sagung Yapito Bhavati. Uddalakoha Arunihi, the son of Aruna, by name well known as Uddalaka, Putram Shvetiketu Vacha, he said to his son Shvetiketu, having realized the actual reality of these things, how far these things are real or unreal, and having this compassion toward these things, now what you have to understand is Swapnantam, he Somya, oh good looking one, learn from me, Vijanihi, clearly understand from me about this Sushupti, this deep sleep that you are experiencing daily. Yatrit Purusha Swapiti Nama, when a man is spoken of as he sleeps, Swapiti Nama. Tada, then at that time what is happening is Sata Sampanno Bhavati. He becomes merged into that Sat. Swam Apitu Bhavati. He merges into his own self. Swam, his own self. Tasmat, therefore, they speak of him as Enam Sapiti iti Achakshate. Of this person who has gone deep sleep, what do the people say, the common man says, is Swapiti. This is the word they use. Swapiti. He sleeps. Why? Samya pito bhavati. Because he sleeps means for he attains his own self. That's why the name came. But still here is not saying that you is yourself that Sat. He says when a person sleeps, he merges with Sat. And again he said, he merges within himself, in his own self. A question arises, is that merging point which is called as Sat is my own self? The question will come into Shmiti Gita. Why? Because the words, once is saying you are Sata Apito, and then says Swam Apito. Which is real then? Are the Sat and Swam both one and the same, identical, or different? That is left now.
But that is said before only.
Huh?
That is said before.
No.
Because this apaha, pranaha, everything is, rooted.
Yes, but it is not mentioned that Sat is I myself.
Yeah.
No. All these are Sat only, is it? But what am I? Am I Sat or not? Who is going to decide? Not yet decided. Even here also is not being decided. Here is you are telling that you merge with Sat. The person sleeps is said to be merging in Sat. First he said that. Then he says he merges within in his own self. That means now what is the meaning of this? Is Sat and self one and the same? Where is merging into? Or are they two different things? Sometimes I merge into myself, sometimes I merge into Sat. What is it? That's not clear now here. He has to make it more clear. For further there will be discussion. Then if 9 times it is Tattvamasi, that is why. It's not so easy to understand this point directly, grab that I am that Sat in my sleep. It's not like that. It's not so easy. Step by step is going to develop the thing. Yasmin Manasi, the mind into which Jivena Atmananu Pravishta, Para Devata. The Para Devata, the supreme deity, Sada, Sat. How it has entered into this mind? Jivena Atmana has entered in the form of the individual soul. Just like Adarsha Eva Purushaha, just like a man entering into the mirror in the form of Pratibimbena, in the form of reflection. Or Jaladisha Ivacha Suryadha Pratibimbahi, or like the sun, etc. Suryadha entering into Jaladishu, into water, etc. through their own reflections, Pratibimbahi. Similarly, this absolute self, the Paradeva, the supreme deity, has entered into the mind in the form of individual soul. Tan Mano, the mind into which this has entered, that mind, how is that? Is stated as Annamayam. That mind which is made up of food, how is it? Not alone. It is Tejo Ammayabhyam Vak Pranabhyam Sangatam Madhikatam. It is along with the organ of speech and vital force, which are made up of fire and water. It is associated with these two. Only mind cannot exist. It's of no use. Along with the vital force, only is birth and death. Therefore, is Bhashya saying that he entered into the mind, but that mind is not alone into which he is entering. If he would have entered only into the mind, and the mind had no association with anything else, then there is no samsara at all, meaningless. Because this mind is along with the vital force and sense organs. With that aggregate this mind is, then in such a mind he has entered. That is why the individual soul experiences birth and death and transmigration also. That is why he says, how is that mind? Tanmano, the mind into which that supreme deity had entered in the form of individual soul, is made up of food. Not only that, Tejammayabhyam, Vak Pranabhyam, Sangatam, Adhigatam. It is associated with the organ of speech. It is an indicator for all other organs too. And the vital force, very important for birth and death process. It is associated with these two, which are made up of water and fire. Why all this stated? Because who are we? The individual soul. That's it. Yanmayo yatstascha jivo. Yanmayo yatstascha jivo. The individual soul, in identification of that mind, Yanmaya, is in identification with that mind, and also he is staying in it. Yatstascha, being in it, staying in it. What is able to do? He becomes manana, darshana, shravanadi, vyavaharaya kalpate. He is able to have to be happen to be as a thinker, to think, to see, to listen, etc. He gets that ability to do so. Taduparemecha. But when that mind also takes rest, or you can say, and on the cessation of the minds, all vrittis, modifications, what happens? Swam devatarupameva pratipadyate. This individual soul was depending totally on that mind, because he was identified with the mind, he has identified himself with the mind, and he is staying in that mind. And now that mind is cessated, all the modifications of it has got cessation of the modifications, then what happens? Where is that individual soul? Where does that reflection go? He says, Swam devatarupameva pratipadyate. He attains his own natural form, the Sat. Taduktam Shrutyantri. This has been stated in another place text also. Dhyayati eva, lelayati eva. Brihadanyak 437. He seems to be as it were meditating, he was meditating, or he seems to be as if moving. Not only that much mantra, he is giving the further of that mantra also. Sadihi swapno bhutva imam lokam adhikramati. That into soul, which is thus, which when, as if it thinks as it were, it moves as it were. How? Sadihi, being identified with the mind. Dhi is mind. Dhiya saha, it is sadihi, associated with the mind. Being identified with the mind. Swapno bhutva, with dreams, it, what is doing? Imam lokam adhikramati. It transcends this world of waking state. Savayam atma brahma vijnanamayo mayomaya ityadi. Is another mantra of the same Brihadanyak. Is 445. Savayam atma brahma. Savayam atma brahma. This self, ayam atma means this self, is what? Sa Brahma, is that Brahman.
That's also, Mahavakya, right, Swami?
Ayam atma Brahma, Mahavakya. Yes. Vijnanamaya, but which is identified with intellect, is called as Vijnanamaya. When identified with mind, it is called Manomaya. That same Brahman, in the form of individual, when identified with intellect, becomes Vijnanamaya. When identified with the mind, it becomes Manomaya ityadi. Not only that, Swaprena Shariram ityadi. Swaprena Shariram ityadi. This is also Brihadanyak 4311. Then here we have to take the rest of the part, is not mentioned here. That radiant Brahman puts aside this physical body and has its own in the dream. Swaprena Shariram. Swaprena Shariram. He puts aside his body and all the things of this body also. He is not using any organ of this body also, except for the mind is separate from this body. Through that mind alone, he is seeing the swapna, the dreams. That's the mantra. Pranam neva pranavana bhavati ityadi cha. When it does the function of living, it is called as vital force. Tasyasya manasthasya manakhyam gatasya. Tasyasya, that individual soul, which is thus manasthasya, which when existing in the mind, manakhyam, which is also called as mind when identified with the mind. Manakhyam gatasya, which has been called by the word mind. because it's got identified with the mind. Mana upashamadvarena indriya vishayebhyo nivrittasya. That it is all which abstains from all the objects of the different sense organs when the mind ceases to function. Mana upashama dvarena. When the mind ceases to function with all its modifications, indriya vishayebhya, from all the objects of all the sense organs, nivrittasya, that which is abstaining is the jivatma, the individual soul. Yasyam parsyam devatayam swattbhutayam yadavasthanam. Having abstained from all the mind, along with all organs and everything, where does this individual soul go? He says, Yasyam parasyam devatayam swattbhutayam yadavasthanam tat putraya achikyasu uddhalakoha kila arune shvetikaputram vacha uktava. Becomes identified with that supreme Brahman, Yasyam Purasyam, the supreme deity, and thus Swattbhutayam abides in its own self. Yadavasthanam, that state in which this thing happens, with the view to illustrate that to his son, Tat Putraya Achikyaso, with the view to illustrate this incident which is happening in each and everybody's daily life, to his son, Uddalaka Kila Arunihi, the well known son of Aruna, called as Uddalaka, Shvetakaputram Uvacha Uktavan, is said to his son, named as Shvetiketu. What did he say? Saprantam me swami vijani iti. Such a big introduction for the beginning of this mantra. Very much essential, because totally we have to separate this individual soul from the mind and all the adjuncts. That's why the Trivrit Karanam has been done. The theory, or what you call the theme in the mind of Acharya Shankar regarding Panchakarana is very clear here. Because there's nothing called as individual soul at all. Because the mind we are saying individual soul, the reflection in the mind is called as individual soul. And is there any mind? As said, that mind is nothing but three colors only. And those three again in turn is Sat only. Therefore, there is no adjunct called mind. There is no question of any individual soul also. So to make this, to realize this thing only, the ego can be put out by this. Because of the ego only we are thinking that there is a samsara, there is a maya and all vyavastha we are doing. And by this theory, if we go deep into this, understand properly and with a firm conviction, if we are sticking to it, then actually the ego goes out. There is no more question of saying that I am something, or you are nothing. Just like somebody said, what is your name? My name is nobody. My name is nobody. Okay, it is what is your father's name? He was somebody. Do you have relations? Yes, everybody. Oh, everybody is my relation. My name is nobody, father was somebody, and my relatives are everybody, but still I am nobody. Because, what is the reason? He says, anybody can talk to me. Because of anybody. So in this way, this whole thing is imagination only, nothing else. Swapnantam, swapna madhyam, swapna iti darshana vrte, swapnasyakya, tasya madhyam swapnantam sushupta mithyata. Swapnantam is the word in the mantra. He is explaining this word now. Swapnantam is about deep sleep. How this word is being derived is being mentioned. Swapna madhyam. A madhyam is not middle. Core of the dream. The core of the tree. Just like the core of a trunk of the tree is called as a madhya. The central portion, the core, is called as madhya. Not the middle here. Don't take the middle of the dream. Not the meaning so. Especially when you see the plantain tree, banana plantain. How it is? Go on peeling, they send to this core. Similarly, Swapnanta means here Swapna Madhyam, the core of dream. Swapna is Darshana Vritti. What is Swapna? The word Swapna, dream, is used when Darshana Vritti hai. When what's happening is that state when there is a function of seeing only, nothing else happens there. And the function of seeing only is happening, and without the eyes you are seeing. That's the peculiarity. Without any eyes or anything, only seeing is happening. What? Because this picture is going on there. A serial like is going on in your mind. Mind is imagining by itself everything and showing to you, and you are experiencing it. Therefore, only darshan vritti is there. No other vritti. That's why it says it is that the word swapna mentions that state, means that state in which only seeing takes place. Only the function of seeing is named as dream. Swapnasi akhya. Swapna iti darshana vritte swapnasi akhya. Swapna iti. The word swapna. Darshana vritti is itself called by the name swapna. The state in which the function of seeing only takes place is named by the word swapna, dream. Tasya madhyam, the core of that. Swapna madhyam, samasa. So what's swapna madhyam? Swapnantam, the word in the mantra. That means to say, sushuptam ityata, deep sleep, this is all it is. Athava, the other meaning of swapnantam. Swapnantam is swapna satatvam ityartha, or the essential nature of the dream. The essential nature of the dream. What is the essential nature of dream? Only Swayam Jyoti, Atma is nothing else. Atrayam Swayam Jyoti. In Pradhan Upanishad said, in this dream only you can realize that Atma is Swayam Jyoti. Because there is no other Jyoti at all. Only Atma is there and mind is there. The mind is completely inert. Then who is showing that? Everything. Who is experiencing everything there? It is the Atma itself. So he says, so what is the essential nature of dream? That is Atma. That is Sushupti. That is Sat. That is Brahman. This is the meaning. Ityartha. Tatrapi, in this case also, in this sense also, Sushuptam Yevavati. The meaning is to be understood as deep sleep only. Swam apito bhavati vachana, due to the statement that he attains himself. Swam apito bhavati is a statement later in the same mantra. Therefore, whether you take as darshana vritti dream and the core of it, you take the meaning of Sapnam in this way, or you take it as the essential nature of dream, whatever sense you can take of this word, but still the final meaning of that word is deep sleep only. Nahi anitra sushupta swam apitim jivasi icchanti brahmvidah. Great statement here. Because other than deep sleep, in any other state, attainment of one's own self is not admitted by the knowers of Brahman, by the Vedantis. In any other state, we don't admit that we are attaining our own self. It's only in deep sleep that a person attains his own self. He says, Anyatra sushuptat, other than the deep sleep state, samapitim jivasya, attainment of his own form, Brahmavidaha nahi icchanti. The knowers of Brahman never wish or admit. Why? Because the reason is explained very nicely here. Tatra he adarsh apanayani purusha pratibimba adarshagato yatha swameva purusham apito bhavati. First realize this in the example given before. The mirror. If you remove the mirror in front of you, put it aside, then what happens to the reflection? Where it goes? It goes back into the Purusha. Where is it will go? You had entered into the mirror and now you are coming back to your own self. Similarly, this Atman had entered into the mind. The mind is now ceased to work, ceased to function. Where that individual soul go? Back to your own self. There says, Adarsha apannayane. Adarsha apannayane. When the mirror is put aside. Purusha pratibimba adarsha gato. The reflection of the person which had entered into the mirror. What will happen to him? Swamev purusham bhavati. That reflection enters the person himself. Evam. Similarly, what's happening here? He says, Man adi uparame. When the mind, etc., cease to function. Chaitanya pratibimba rupena jivena atmana manasi pravishta. That which in the form of individual soul had entered and become identified with the mind as a conscious reflection. Chaitanya pratibimba rupena. Conscious reflection is there. Just not like the mirror, inert reflection. It's conscious reflection. Chaitanya pratibimba rupena. Jivena atmana, the form of individual soul which had entered into the mind, manasi pravishta. Nama rupa vyakaranaya. Why it had entered over there? Nama rupa vyakaranaya. To manifest the different names and forms in this external world. Paradyavata, Sa, that supreme being, deity, Swameva Atmanam Pratipate, attains its own self. How? Jivarupata Manakyam Hitra, by giving up its appearance as individual soul, called by the word mind. Which is identified with the mind. It entered into the mind and identified with the mind. If it was called as a mind only. And now that entity is gone. Thus, it has gone into its own self. Ata sushupta eva swapnanta shabdavacha iti gavagamyate. Therefore, it is understood that deep sleep is meant by the word swapnantam.